Hi and good evening. I am yours truly, Dr. Pierre, your favorite board certified internist, host of Real Physician Reacts. This is your weekly live show where we are here to talk about some of the crazy stuff that I see across my social media platforms and to get my personal reaction on what I think about it. I'm the host of Medicine Mondays. That's my Monday episode where we bring you just some amazing guests and really just amazing topics all together. And this week we are going to be talking about vaccine hesitancy. And unfortunately, it came all to a head this week with the recent online controversy with Nicki Minaj and MSNBC host Joy Reid. And this, when it first came across the timeline, right, it happened pretty quickly. But what ensued following, and unfortunately, like social media, it started out with a few tweets. But what ensued, especially for the next probably 24 to 48 hours, is almost like a microcosm of what we've been experiencing this entire pandemic, where you have one person's opinion on a subject matter that can clearly influence the many, and you have people who are maybe a little more educated, a little more well knowledge, a little bit more well versed, come in to kind of say like, hey, like you probably don't understand what you're doing, but like this is what you're doing, and then backlash ensues. And as a physician who's obviously I've been doing this across social media platforms, obviously the YouTube page, but trust me, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, and I typically get the same type of feedback. I like to call it feedback. I typically get the same type of feedback everywhere. So it's not surprising, but of course, when someone, as huge as Nicki Minaj and MSNBC host Joy Reid, when they have their discussions really out in the public, it kind of gets to, the whole global sphere, all the way to the point that we actually had to have the Minister of Health of Trinidad and Tobago actually had to speak on this topic, which is something you would have thought never would need to occur. But you have our Minister of Health at Trinidad and Tobago. You have the White House having to make a comment just to give you an idea of how serious, some of the, comments were and all of the actions kind of insinuating. So I want to kind of start off, me, I like to kind of start off so we can kind of get in the mindset of like, what is the topic at hand, right? So we're going to be talking about vaccine hesitancy. So I want to just kind of give a quick definition, show you guys a quick definition from the World Health Organization. That way you guys can get an idea like, okay, this is the mindset I need to be in kind of moving forward. Vaccines, despite availability of vaccine services, it is complex and context specific, varying across time, place, and more importantly, the type of vaccines. It is influenced by factors such as complacency, convenience, and confidence. And unfortunately, those things kind of work both ways in that regards, right? So, and I wanted you guys to kind of get that picture just so you can kind of get because I'm going to say vaccine hesitancy a lot, especially when we kind of go over some of the reaction videos, some of the quotes that we saw, and then just so you can kind of get an idea, understanding kind of the base work, foundation of what's going on here. So I want to start by where it all kind of started and just kind of set the scene. So recently, the Met Gala was going on, and I believe what occurred is that one of her followers or fans noticed, like, hey, I don't see Nicki Minaj here at the Met Gala. What's happening, right? Like that's just so you can kind of get an understanding of the scene that was kind of set. So let's take a look here just to kind of see. And Nicki Minaj, as Nicki Minaj typically does, she responded to her one of her fans. She says, "Love you, babe. I was preparing for the VMAs. Then I shot a video, and guess who got COVID?" So she's right there. She's kind of admitting that she had at least at one point contracted COVID. Do you know what it is not to be able to kiss or hold your tiny baby for over a week? A baby who was only used to his mama. Get vaccinated, in quote unquote. Drake had just told me he got the COVID with the vaccine dose. So, child. So And that was in response to like, hey, where's Nicki Minaj? I don't see Nicki Minaj. And then as you can see, that person is there saying like, I noticed Nicki seems to be scared of COVID, and rightfully so. You people want her to risk her catching it because you want to see her dress up and interact with fake celebrities, which are weird, right? So again, she's kind of the fan is like, hey, like I understand why Nicki Minaj isn't there because she's afraid of COVID. And she doesn't want to catch COVID, but here Nicki Minaj responds, "Hey, I love you, but like I already got COVID, and I got COVID, and obviously without getting vaccinated because she's not vaccinated, and I couldn't hold my baby for a week, which of course for a new mother is a traumatic time when you can't hold a child of yours." And then she kind of mentions like, "Hey, Drake got the vaccine, right, and still got COVID, right?" So this is where I've always had the contention people when they kind of misplace what the importance and really what the function of the vaccine is. Again, if this is your first time watching this, you understand that I've already educated our Lunch and Learn community and whatnot that the vaccine's role is to prevent you from seeing someone like me in the hospital. Severe illness. That is the role. Can I reduce severe illness and death? That's the vaccine's job. It is never the job to say protect you from ever getting COVID or being diagnosed with COVID, because the vaccine can't do that. Just like the flu vaccine can't do that. And there's not a vaccine that can 100% prevent you from getting said disease. But the goal is, can I prevent you from getting a severe illness if you're infected with the disease? That's always the goal. But unfortunately, she's starting to set the ball here and kind of inferring that like, hey, this person got the vaccine and they still got COVID, and I got COVID as well too. So like, again, I'm staying away from both of those things there. So again, that was just the initial assumption, right? Which again, I don't think would have been an issue, right? I don't think would have been an issue, if unfortunately she didn't continue to go, right? And like I said, we're going to get to how Joy Reid, the MSNBC host, kind of comes into play here. All right. So, so a fan, right? It looks like the fan is, pretty alert and aware of what's going on. Nicki, the fan doesn't prevent you from getting COVID, which is kind of what we mentioned, right? The vaccine is not to prevent you from getting COVID. That's not the job of the vaccine. It prevents you from getting, like, it's almost as if I typed it. It prevents you getting serious symptoms. Not vaccinated people are 11 times more likely to pass away from COVID than unvaccinated. All are true. Like I said, I had to double back because I thought I was the one who typed it, right? Because like that is the exact statement that you respond with when someone tries to mention that, like, oh, Joe Blow also got COVID, even though they got the vaccine. Like, you have to like hit home the fact that no, the job of the vaccine is to prevent you from getting severe illness and decrease your chance of dying from COVID. That's the job, not prevent you from getting COVID, right? Really to kind of, refute, initial statement mentioned by Nicki. And then unfortunately, because, and you saw the discussion from the WHO where confidence comes into play. A lot of people, especially in this topic, are confidently wrong when discussing COVID-19. And unfortunately, Nicki Minaj is another person in this situation who's confidently wrong. Babe, that is not true. I had the same exact symptoms as people with the damn vaccine. So again, she again mentions, the vaccine and mentions the fact that, hey, I got COVID, right? And I still had the same symptoms as a person who got COVID and got the vaccine. Again, trying to, depress really what's the truth, right? The truth is, if you get COVID, right? If you get COVID, and you are vaccinated, you have a less likely chance of getting severe illness, less likely chance of dying. That's the goal, not like prevent you from ever getting COVID, right? So, but again, Nicki's starting to kind of stand her ground here and say like, hey, like, no, that vaccine is not what you guys think it is, which is essentially what she's doing, right? Despite any response that she, has said from this point on, like, she is, again, putting her foot to the ground, letting us know that the vaccine does not matter, right? And this is why you're going to see the response from Joy, because she has like 22 million followers, I think, right? And you have to be able to kind of stomp out like when lies are happening, because once it gets to the 22 million followers, it's almost too late, which unfortunately, as you'll see, it actually does. So I just want to again, and like I said, we're just going to go through a series of her tweets just so you guys can get like a chronological timeline of what's kind of going on here. All right. So this one here. So now, right? So again, unprovoked, right? They want you to get vaccinated for the Met. If I get vaccinated, it won't be for the Met. It'll be once I feel I've done enough research. Again, and this research thing, I've mentioned this before. When I hear celebrities say, like, I still need to do much research, I always ask, what research are you doing? Like, who are you reading? Like, because I want to know, right? Like, if you're still in the I need to do research phase, I need to one understand what's taking so long, because it's been out there, it's been public, right, for over a year and some change now. It's been out there. So what exactly are you waiting for when you say you're doing research? Or more importantly, what research are you doing? 9 times again, I'm pretty sure if I had the opportunity to ask these celebrities, because again, I typically see this response from celebrities, they likely wouldn't be able to give an answer, right? Because they're not actually doing any research, right? Typically, and she's already drawn her line in the sand, right? She's already told you she doesn't want to get the vaccine, right? She's already telling you that. But now she says, like, oh, because I haven't done enough research. And a person who wants to do enough research would have already done enough research, right? Again, at the time I'm recording this, 660,000 people here in the United States have died from COVID. If you were going to do research on a disease that's killing 660,000 American citizens, you would have already done so. Like, you're not waiting until someone asks you about the Met Gala to do research, right? You've been do this, right? So again, it'll be once I feel I've done enough research. I'm working on that now. In the meantime, my loves, be safe, wear the mask with 2 strings that grip your face and not the loose one. So that right here, so this is where me and Nicki Minaj, we're starting to feel each other, right? Because now she's saying, like, yes, I need to do my research, but like while I'm doing my research, I want you guys to keep wearing that mask, right? So again, at least she kind of understands, like, yes, like if you're not vaccinated, and this is the discussion I have with people who are on the other side, right? Like, they always argue with me, Dr. Pierre, you're always trying to push the vaccine. No, I'm not trying to push the vaccine at all. I just know that the most effective way to prevent you from seeing me in a hospital, from dying, is this vaccine. Especially, and I always have to say this, especially because I know you do not want to socially isolate. You do not want to keep wearing your mask. You want to go out and frolic and go to bars, go to clubs. You want to go to sporting, but you want to keep doing those things there. And if you want to do that, cool, right? Get vaccinated so you protect not only you, you protect everyone around you, and you protect your loved ones at home. But you can't have it both ways. You can't be like, I'm not going to socially distance, I'm not going to wear a mask, and I'm not going to mask up. Oh, and it's not a problem to anybody. You're like, no, like it doesn't work like that. I don't have the ability to say, I don't want that person's COVID because they're not following the rules. Like, I can't tell my body don't pick up their COVID. So when people are disingenuous and say it's not my problem, right? If they're not vaccinated, well, actually, it 100% is my problem, right? This the same reason why you can't go to a restaurant right now and light up a cigarette. The same reason why you can go on the airplane and light up a cigarette is because people around you don't have the option to avoid secondhand smoke, right? Secondhand smoke, we know, causes cancer. I don't have that option to say, hey, you know what? That person in, 10B, they're smoking, but I don't want any of their carcinogens from the smoking. No, the airlines has to say, you know what? You are not smoking. The restaurant industry has to say, you know what? You are not smoking in our facility. You go outside in the back. You go out to the side. Don't smoke over here. It's the same premise, right? So again, when you hear people say, oh, if I'm not vaccinated, why does that matter to you? It matters to me because I don't have the option not to pick up your disease. Like, and if that doesn't move you, then that really says more about the person who's okay wearing, taking their mask off, not socially distant. That says more about you than it ever says about me. It does. I'm not the crazy one because I want you to protect me. Like, I'm not the crazy one. Like, let's think about that. So again, as you can see here, she kind of, again, she hints that, again, why would I get vaccinated for the Met? Almost as if the Met's like a nobody, type of organization, right? But again, but she's been at Mets before, so it's not like she's never been there. She's usually a well-attended member there at these Mets in the past years. I'm sure the Mets said, if you are not vaccinated, you can't come. And Nicki decided to draw a line And now her fans are asking for it. And now this is her time with her 22 million followers to say, like, hey, let me tell y'all guys what happened. They wanted me to get vaccinated, and I'm not getting vaccinated just for the quote unquote Met. Even though that she has subsequent tweets after that saying like, oh, when I have to go on tour, make money, I'm going to get vaccinated because there's certain countries that won't let me tour. So she understands, like, from a financial standpoint, like, I'm going to have to get vaccinated because I'm going to. So I'm pretty sure when the finances, come into play, her research will likely be finished. But at least at this point for the Met, her research isn't there yet. All right. So again, and I wish, right? I wish it would have stopped here, right? Because these are things, like I said, as we talk, we can answer, we can kind of go through, right? I wish it would have stopped there. Unfortunately, it didn't. And I think this next tweet of hers, and she had a series of tweets that night, is what really flipped everything, right? Especially for me as the healthcare provider, the one who has to fight disinformation across these social media platforms. This is when I was like, okay, I can't even like ignore it, because typically I don't like to talk about, there's certain fan bases you don't typically like to talk about. Hers is definitely one of them, right? But it's like, so here we go. Let's see the tweet that really that really kind of took the cake as far as everything that's going on here. All right. So I'll make this big so you can really see it. My cousin in Trinidad won't get the vaccine because his friend got it and became impotent. So now, right, she's telling us about a story from a family member that a friend of a family member's had got the vaccine and became impotent. Not true. Testicles became swollen. Not true. And his friend was weeks away from getting married. Now the girl called off the wedding. Like, let's stop here, guys. Like, let me zoom myself back in. Like what? Like, read that, right? Like, she essentially saying that the friend could not get married, lost the love of his life because of this COVID vaccine. If that is not screaming, hey guys, if I were you, I wouldn't get this COVID vaccine, I don't know what is. Right. So it's disingenuous when she tries to say that she was not insinuating not getting a vaccine. And I've talked this before. When I was doing outpatient medicine, two of the biggest reasons why men would come to see me in my office, one is because they had a family member, mom, sister, cousin, girlfriend, wife, boyfriend would drag them in and say, you're coming to get checked, right? Because they hadn't seen a doctor in years, which is pretty typical. Or number two, and probably the most important, is sexual function, whether it be, a lack of it, whether they need the testosterone, whether they need Viagra, all like those were the two big reasons why I would see a man in my office, like outside of the one where the family, like those were like the two biggest ones, but sexual function. So here you have, like I said, let's big it up again. My cousin in Trinidad got the vaccine and became impotent, got swollen balls and lost the love of his life and could not get married, right? So the girl called off the wedding. So pray on it and make sure you're comfortable with your decision and not bullied, right? And I've talked about this before, that those who are anti-vaccine, anti-vaxxers, right? They really feel that they're being bullied, right, into submission. No. Again, listen, if you don't hear anything else during today's episode, understand this. Dr. Pierre wants you to get vaccinated because Dr. Pierre knows you, right, want to go back to the clubs, want to go back to work, want to go to your social events. You want to go back to quote unquote normal life. And the only way to do that, to make sure not only is it safe for you, but safe for everyone that you're going to come in contact with, is to get vaccinated. Especially because I know you don't want to mask up. I know you don't want to, social distance forever. I already know you don't want to do that. It's like, so don't lie to yourselves. If in fact, anyone who's watching this right now, if you want to social distance for the rest of your life, if you want to wear your mask for the rest of your life, just drop it in the comments, right? If I don't see it in the comments, I'm going to assume that you're the other side. It just is what it is, right? So again, here you have, again, a superstar telling you like this crazy story that there's no correlation whatsoever associated with the vaccine, and essentially says like, hey, but guys, I don't know about y'all, I'll let y'all pray on it, right? Like that's just crazy Crazy. So of course, by this time, she has countless people replying on both sides, like, "Oh my God, I told you, Nicki Minaj. Yeah, you're right." And other people, especially people like me, like, "No, like, what are you doing? What are you actually doing?" Right? Like, no, it doesn't make any sense in the world for you to kind of insinuate what you're insinuating, right? And this is when Joy Reid is inserted, right? And the reason why I say Joy Reid is inserted because she wasn't the only person who said something in regards to like Nicki Minaj, essentially, screaming, fire in a crowded room, right? But for some reason, Nicki Minaj decided to choose her out of all the people who decided to say something, right? So let's go to Joy's response, right? Just so you can kind of get an idea of exactly where where everything is happening at this point here.
And people like Nicki Minaj, I have to say this. You have a platform, sister, that is 22 million followers. Okay, I have 2 million followers. You have 22 million followers on Twitter. For you to use your platform to encourage our community to not protect themselves and save their lives, my God, sister, you could do better than that. You got that platform. It's a blessing. It's a blessing that you got that people listen to you. And they listen to you more than listen to me.
I wanted to pause there because as a physician, public health, I got an MPH degree as well too, internist. I've been taking care of COVID patients since the pandemic started. But you would be surprised the amount of people that don't refer to me as an expert, right, in the field of taking care of patients with COVID-19. You will be surprised the amount of people who are willing to take people who aren't even in the medical field, aka Sean Brooks, right? Like you will be surprised the way they're able to just gravitate to those people and say, no, those are the authority figures that I'm going to listen to. So when Joy mentions that, she's telling the truth. Like, there are doctors across the country. There are doctors way smarter than me, right? Who've been screaming from the rooftops, educating from the rooftops, and no one's listening to them. No one's hearing them, right? But here you have a celebrity, right? And again, I was on Instagram. My wife shared, this video from Life Jennings, who's an R&B artist, right? And he's asking questions, again, clearly vaccine hesitant again, asking questions and whatnot. So I did a response video to answer his questions, and almost like clockwork, which typically happens, right? For those who are really like anti-vaccine, but they are just like trying to package it around being vaccine hesitant. He says, "Oh, I guess Instagram is censoring me, and I'm not allowed to post any videos no more," which is totally untrue. Right. But that's what, and unfortunately, this is what kind of happens here. Right. So when you have celebrities, I think Teddy Riley did something like that similar, like Teddy Riley, who's like the producer, right, who would never listen to me, right, in regards to composing, a song, would never, and he shouldn't, right. And this is the most important thing. He should never, ever listen to me when composing a song. This is Teddy Riley. But for some crazy reason, when Teddy Riley, the same music composer, right, producer, right, says something medical, says something science related, more people are likely to gravitate to him than they are to gravitate to someone like me. Right. So I love that Joy said that, because she is right on the money. Like, at her position, people are going to listen to her way more than they listen to people of the expert opinion.
For you to use your platform to put people in the position of dying from a disease they don't have to die from, oh my God, as a fan, as a hip hop fan, as somebody who is your fan, I'm so sad that you did that. So sad that you did that, sister. Oh my God.
And I love that, right? Because again, Joy is so flabbergasted that a person in her position would sow the seeds of doubt like she did, despite what response Nicki and her fans will tell you that no, she wasn't. Like, clearly you see the succession of tweets, right? Like, clearly she's laying the breadcrumbs to say, like, I don't know about that vaccine, y'all. I got a cousin who's got swollen testicles, right? Like, I don't know, right? Like, and unfortunately, what ensued after this, of course, because whenever something like this happens, I get people, because I have people, all over social media who's like send me the videos when they see crazy stuff happen. So people are, I'm in WhatsApp and my Facebook Messenger, right, in my phone, like everyone's like texting me, hey, did you see what Nicki Minaj said? Did you see what Nicki Minaj said? So I'm following, and then I see what Joy response is, and then unfortunately, Nicki Minaj goes into this like tirade where she's being extremely derogatory. As you saw the video, there was no derogatory remark towards Nicki Minaj, but the series of tweets that Nicki Minaj throws at Just Joy, and I say Just Joy because by this time, USA Today has posted, multiple blogs have posted about, hey, did you see what Nicki Minaj said? Right? But she only mentions Joy the whole time, only focuses on Joy. And then at this time, here you go. She's just boisterous again because she has so many fans, right, who are everything for Nicki, right? Now everyone else is throwing insults at Joy. Now you get to a point where you have a Tucker Carlson, a Candace Owens, right? Like a Marjorie, like those people who are clearly far from the experts in this process here, chiming in, giving Nicki kudos and say, yes, I can't. In fact, like I think Tucker Carlson even asked to try to interview the cousin's friend, right? Like this lie that has just shot through like essentially the entire social media world at this point, to the point where the Minister of Health of Trinidad and Tobago actually had to stop and say, guys, like I know you heard some things, I know you read some things, but let me tell you, that didn't occur, right? It's fact. Like I said, it's just the level of craziness that was there. Hold on for a second.
The first one is, given the international criticism and speculation surrounding a tweeted claim by Nicki Minaj, we're asking directly today, have there been any reports to health officials in TNT of testicular swelling due to the COVID-19 vaccine? That's question one. And the second question is, there have been numerous claims of persons going for additional COVID-19 doses despite already having their full regime. Whether it's extra doses of a particular vaccine or seeking out a different vaccine from the one that they would have gotten previously. Is the ministry aware of such reports, and what additional measures will be put in place to address this? Thank you very much.
Okay, so thank you. I will take both questions. So yes, claims are being made. One of the reasons we could not respond yesterday in real time to Ms. Minaj is that we had to check and make sure that what she was claiming was either true or false. And unfortunately, we wasted so much time yesterday running down this false claim. It is, as far as we know, at this point in time, there has been no such reported either side effect or adverse event. And what was sad about this is that it wasted our time yesterday trying to track down, because we take all these claims seriously, whether it's on social media or mainstream media. As we stand now, there is absolutely no reported such side effect or adverse event of testicular swelling in Trinidad, or I dare say, Dr. Hines, anywhere else? None that we know of anywhere else in the world. So that's a claim.
Yeah, guys. So, like I said, it's sad that it got to the point where the Minister of Health of Trinidad and Tobago had to respond, right? And I've talked this before. This is how disinformation and misinformation, this is how quickly it can spread. This is less than 24 hours. Less than 24 hours, a government official of the country had to respond, because that is how rampant, right, that lie ran, right? Like and this is why it's so irresponsible, right, for what she mentioned, right? Again, if you're vaccine hesitant or you just don't want to get the vaccine, just say that, right? But like once you put that story out there, that continues to sow more doubt, right? Like it's running, right? And there's no running from it, right? And I was actually shocked that I saw some like some morning, like I think Breakfast Club, did a video, and like they were talking as if Joy like was in the wrong, like Joy like should have did something different. Like, no, right? When people are incorrect, aka Nicki Minaj, right, you have to respond accordingly. Now, of course, after 24 hours and things are blowing up, is Joy comes back, right? And I think she does such a phenomenal job, again, hitting home the fact that why she dropped the video the day before, right? So I want to show you a graph, right? Just so you can kind of get an idea. When we talk about vaccine hesitancy, especially here in this country, who is the biggest perpetrators of vaccine hesitancy? So then when we see Joy's second video, we can kind of understand exactly where Joy is coming from. So if you take an effect, let me make it make myself bigger. Let me just make the whole screen perfect, just so you guys can see a little better. So as you can see here, most adults want COVID-19 vaccine, but then you can kind of see some of the groups that are unwilling, right? Just from looking at the numbers, again, you have the red, right, where the red comes in, right? So you see the majority of the red in an age group standpoint between 18 and 34. So our young population, this is typically our superhero population as well too, but unfortunately I got a lot of superheroes ending up in the hospital from COVID, but like they're the big ones who are like really saying like, oh, I don't plan on getting vaccinated. You have the Republican Party, again, the predominant aspect of not getting the vaccine. You see the Democratic Party, only like 10% are saying I'm not getting vaccinated whatsoever, and about 11% who are still unsure, aka still in the research phase. Again, from a racial standpoint, you can see percentage-wise, 27% Black, 19% Hispanic, white, or other ethnicity, about 16%. And obviously, I want to, obviously make sure we are focused on what the percentage is, but more importantly, what the number is, right? When we figure and think about the number of Black people here in the country versus the number of white people here in the country, despite the fact that 27% are saying I'm not getting vaccinated, that 27% still makes up a much smaller number than this 19% of white people who are saying I am not getting vaccinated. No college degree, so we can see there's some issue with education, right? And I've said this before, the less educated are more likely not to get the vaccine. And then the income, we see the less income, again, also more likely not to get the vaccine, right? So again, just some telling aspects there when we think about who is really vaccine hesitant here in this country, right? And I want you guys to kind of think about those numbers, think about those stats, especially when we see Joy's last response here. And again, this happened like the day after, the controversy really kind of like took off.
All right, so thank you. All it took was one tweet from Nicki Minaj to her 22 million followers to stir up a whole boatload of controversy about the spread of vaccine misinformation, especially in Black communities. We'll respond with just the facts next on The Readout. Stay with us. Okay, so yesterday I had a spontaneous reaction to hip-hop star Nicki Minaj tweeting about a friend of a cousin in Trinidad who allegedly had a negative reaction to a COVID vaccine. That some folks pointed out sounded kind of like an STD, but I'm not a doctor, so I digress. Essentially, she made public her own vaccine deliberation, which according to trusted friends is a better way to describe vaccine hesitancy, which by the way is not the same thing as refusal. But by doing so, Nicki also used her social media platform and her 22 million Twitter followers to cast doubt on the vaccine to a heavily Black audience.
And again, like I said, it's one thing to say you don't want to get the vaccine for whatever reasons. But once you include that cousin's friend, once you start saying, oh, no, the same symptoms I had when I had COVID was the same as a person who got vaccinated, that is exactly what you're doing, despite what you assume that you're not.
Needless to say, both my comments and her series of infuriated responses went viral.
She was infuriated.
Clearly, Nicki was not amused. But that's okay. I feel like every moment is a teachable moment. And this might be the one that illustrates on Twitter in public how hard it is for us to talk to each other on these two sides of the get the vax, don't get the vax aisle. There's a lot of frustration and anger among those of us who feel like we've been doing the right things to try to end this damn virus, and those who are just plain not doing the things.
And that's one thing that when I have the discussions I have with, my anti-vaxxers is, and they're asking like, why do you guys care so much? We care because we want to get back to normal, right? Like we want to get back to normal. We want to be able to rip the mask off. I have patients who I've taken care of probably the past year and a half who probably have no clue I was the one taking care of them because I was in a mask, I already got my glasses. Like all they saw was this, right? So they probably have no clue that I was the one taking care of them. I was the one saving their lives, right? And that's what the mask has done, especially in the healthcare side, right? It's essentially taken away the identity of a lot of our nurses and our frontline workers and our staff and our PT, OT, speech, physician, like it's taken away that identity because all people see are the eyes now, right? So we're trying to get back to normal, but unfortunately we have, again, especially depending on when you're watching this, right? The pandemic is a full swing, especially because the Delta variant is like running through the unvaccinated community like wildfire. We want to get back to normal, but we seem that we can't, right? And we're getting to the point where we don't even know when it's going to end.
And those who are not getting vaccinated are mad at us for excluding them from our spaces and in some cases from our lives. So
again, I've had plenty of people who don't understand why you wouldn't want to necessarily hang with someone who's not vaccinated. Like there's people who really don't understand like why, like if I feel the best way to protect myself is to either stay away from a person who's not vaccinated or make sure when I'm around the person that's vaccinated, I have my mask, I'm socially, like there's a lot of people who don't understand that correlation is truly there.
There's a lot of anger out there. What disturbs me are those who care nothing about Black communities and who are actually hostile to our interests. I'm talking white nationalist, curious Twitter bugs and chatterbugs like Tuckums and Marjorie Greene and Candace Owens, who leapt out to try to scoop up Nicki and put her on their team, using her vaccine misinformation to try to back up their own phony campaigns, pushing their base to reject the vaccines.
I love what I love is because this is typically how those who are, of the position of, and especially the Marjorie Greene, especially the Candace Owens, that they can't wait for someone to have some type of dissent, right? Say, oh, look, this is it. Come join us, right? When nothing that they do actually favor, especially the African American community, right? Like look at Candace Owens. Real queens do not act because of peer pressure. Again, we're in a pandemic and people still feel that me telling you to get a vaccine is some type of peer pressure. I don't know where we go from here.
Well, they're probably fully vaccinated themselves. These
Very
are the same
true.
Republicans and Republican talkers who've been working overtime to try to put vaccine refusal on Black people's shoulders, to try to morph vaccine mandates.
And I kind of highlighted that when I mentioned that, yes, 27% of citizens, Black American citizens, are not getting vaccinated. But remember, we don't make up a significant portion of the country. So yes, that's maybe a higher percentage. But when we look at total population, the numbers still fall on white and Hispanic communities, especially the white communities, who are, again, predominantly saying yep, I'm not getting vaccinated. And I have the numbers to show it.
Into some airborne virus version of 1950s segregation, as if they would have opposed segregation if they'd been around back then. It's not only disingenuous, it's also anti-vax. The data is clear that it is Republicans, and more specifically, Republicans who listen to Fox News and people like Tuckums and Margie and Candace.
See, and this is where I kind of mentioned, right? As you can see now, Tucker Carlson has her tweet, highlighted on Fox News saying, hey, look what Nicki Minaj said about the vaccine. Again, the Minister of Health said no, right? She's not, and I can tell you that whoever that cousin's friend is, they're not going to come out in public and say oh, it was me, especially be truthful, unless someone pays them under the table, right? This And this unfortunately adds fuel to the fire for those who are on the anti-vaccine side, because now they can latch on and say, hey, look what Nicki Minaj says, because again, they somehow deem Nicki Minaj the de facto expert when it comes to vaccines and adverse effects.
For the majority of those refusing to be vaccinated. Black Americans are overwhelmingly Democrats, and we poll like Democrats when it comes to our willingness to get the vaccine. So we are not the problem. But that said, Nicki's tweets point out a very real thing. There is still a lot of vaccine hesitancy among Black folks. Everything from just being reluctant or fear of potential side effects, all the way up to conspiracy theories about the vaccines that are causing people to refuse to take them or just delay. And that needs to be addressed. Let's be clear, there are good, solid reasons for Black people to have these doubts. Our history in this country when it comes to the medical and medical research establishments are not good. And when we...
And that is always a point I always try to hone in on, especially when I'm talking to my African-American patients. And I always mention that first. I almost do it like, hey, I already know Tuskegee. I already know, right, Henrietta Lacks. I already know about all of these things there. But I can tell you that this is not it, right? This scenario is not it. And because of people like me willing to, stand in front of, the firing squads of the YouTubes, the TikToks, the Facebooks of the world, and educate our community, we aren't going to let that occur, right? So you always have to acknowledge why there's distrust, right? So you can build the trust back.
We had a sociopath president in office who was manipulating the CDC and the FDA, pushing for a quickie vaccine by election day so that he could assure his own reelection. You could count me among the hesitant. Trump nearly broke the once trusted CDC and the FDA.
And I love what Joy's doing here, because during Nicki's tirade, she pulled up some of Joy's tweets and said, like, how can this... again, I won't even repeat the derogatory terms she used towards Joy, but how could this person, act like I shouldn't be afraid of the vaccine, right? So here Joy is explaining, like, hey, at that time, I had some valid reasons, but I was educated by people much smarter than me, that the expert said, like, hey, this is what it is, and this is what it is not, right? And then she was able to come around.
To the point where you couldn't be sure that you were hearing from the scientists and not just the political hacks when either agency spoke. And so, yeah, people like me were real hesitant. But luckily, there have been doctors and scientists who could reassure those of us who were willing to be reassured that the vaccines, once they came out months later, were indeed safe and had been produced without any Trumpist input, whether or not they came through the unfortunately named Operation Warp Speed.
And we mentioned before, first of all, I've always said that was an absolutely terrible name, especially for what they were doing. But for those who may not know, Pfizer, the one that's FDA approved, did not go through Operation Warp Speed. It just in case that matters.
We didn't have to do our own research, because we could literally talk with the Black woman, Dr. Kismakia Corbett, who developed the Moderna vaccine, or with doctors on this very show who personally treat COVID patients and could assure us that the vaccines were safe. That's why I got vaccinated months ago, and my immediate family got vaccinated. And yes, I talked to my doctor. Something that, by the way, lots of Black folks who live in red southern states that have refused to expand Medicaid cannot do, because they don't have a doctor.
And that point, we could probably go on a whole show for that aspect of a lot of southern, I'm in Florida, a lot of these southern states refusing to expand Medicaid. When I hear people say, Obamacare, they still call it that, what Affordable Care Act. When I hear people say, oh, it's not good, it didn't do any good, I always ask them what state they live in, right? Because a lot of the reasons why Obamacare didn't do what it does in other states is because, unfortunately, Republican governors said, I'm not going to expand Medicaid, right, to allow it, right? And a lot of people don't understand that. They don't realize that, yes, it came from the top, but it still was up to the governors to say, okay, we'll take the help, and we've taken the help, like, we'll expand Medicaid, get more doctors out there, pay more. Like, so when I hear about the Affordable Care Act, when I hear people say Obamacare is trash or is not good, I always ask them what state they're from, because the likelihood of what state they're from will determine whether they think the Affordable Care Act is a good thing or a lifesaver.
or regular contact with the medical establishment in their states until they get sick. Vaccine hesitancy in the Black community is a real and pressing issue. It's not something to fight about on Twitter. It's something to talk about. And coming up next, we're going to do just that with Dr. Uche Blackstock.
So that's, again, now, of course, that was a smattering of things occurring, but this was a 48-hour span of things, right? I mean, not even really 48, like 24 to 36 hour span of things that occurred. And unfortunately, that is how quick misinformation, disinformation passes, right? So you have a person who, again, it started out as just a person who seems to be vaccine hesitant, like a lot of people are. It's not a bad thing to be vaccine hesitant, but be truthful in your hesitancy and understand that the way you express your hesitancy can easily look as defaming as it did when Nicki Minaj did it here. She does not look like a person who is vaccine hesitant. She looks like a person who wants no parts of the vaccine. Because again, who would want parts of a vaccine if a cousin of a friend, right, got swollen testicles from getting it? Like who in, like, just think about that. Who in their right mind, right? But fortunately, especially because you're watching this here, you understand that that story that she said was BS. The Minister of Health said it's BS. You know, the White House actually had to come out and say, like, no, that's not it. Like the amount of people in official capacity that had to refute this claim here that just started out as, 240 characters in a tweet, but is spread worldwide. This is why it's so important to understand who you're listening to, who you're following, right, and who you're getting your expert advice on. I'm not saying that you only have to rely on me to get your expert advice. I'm a good one, right? But like I said, I can name like 10 others, right, who are good or better than me easily, right? But like that's the company I like to keep. And I want you to keep that type of company as well when you have these types of questions, right? So you don't run into this rabbit hole like Nicki Minaj put herself in. And now, again, I'm not sure if Pride's going to allow herself to dig out or what. I don't know. So again, that's our discussion this week on Real Physician Reacts. We talked about vaccine hesitancy, which is a real problem, not a problem to be scoffed at, right? But understand that just because you're vaccine hesitant doesn't mean you can, like, again, just put out lies and lies. Like if you're not getting the vaccine, cool. But again, like the way Nicki kind of mentioned, she's getting the vaccine. Right. And she's encouraging her fans to wear a mask and eventually she's encouraging her fans and she's getting it probably for monetary reasons. Right. Like, cause she says she can't tour in certain countries if she's not vaccinated. But I would hope that the reason why she wants to get vaccinated is so that her child who can't get vaccinated, right, is protected in case she happens to pick up COVID again. I'm yours truly, Dr. Pierre. I'm going to see you guys next week.